Let's talk about something that we don't like to talk about, and a lot of reviewers don't glaze over, but we're going to dive into this. These are the downsides of DVC.
These are things you might take in consideration if you're looking to buy into DVC and you're just not sure if you want to take that jump into such a financial commitment.
Yep. So what is DVC? Just in case, is Disney Vacation Club. I'm Brad.
I'm Kim.
And we're 626 Ohana, California. So DVC is not that non-traditional timeshare. It's actually considered a gold standard, but there are a lot of downsides to DVC.
So we're going to get into it because you might be looking into this if you're considering DVC, and it is quite a financial commitment.
Yep.
But it's not your traditional timeshare. Mm-hmm. You're not necessarily locked into a certain resort, only staying at that resort or a certain time of year, unless you have a contract that states so when you bought it and you made it that way, and there's a few of those available.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the first one. Well, we were just talking about expense.
Okay, this is a big financial expense. This is, if you're buying into a new resort, this is a 50-year commitment. There is a resale market, but just go into it thinking that maybe this is the 50-year commitment. Yeah. Or 20-year if it's resale or one of the older contracts you're buying.
Yeah, you're basically buying real estate. And that's the way to kind of look at it. That's what the rates are at. It is all real estate type of investments. So it is something to be very aware of when anytime you go into any real estate type of transaction, that there is always possible downsides to this.
So one of them is every year there are taxes, or what they call dues. Every December we get a nice little surprise in our email inbox or our mailbox. And it's significant.
Yeah, and so dues are based on per point that you purchase. So,
and each resort is different. So what you're going to pay at an older resort like Old Key West versus what you're going to pay at like the villas at Disneyland Hotel are going to be very different.
Yeah, and I'll just give you an example for what we have as one of our contracts we'll probably be using for the most is at the Polynesian Villas and Bungalows. So the tax rate for 2024 was $8.23 per point. And that is, they go up a little bit from last year of about 3.5%.
Now there's no fixed rate. It's not saying they'll go up more or less, whatever, you don't know. So that's kind of a surprise every year. It's like, oh, what is it going to be?
This is always something you should try to factor into your recoup costs when you're purchasing this to see if it actually makes financial sense for your family to buy. But it is something to be very aware of, and it is expensive.
Okay, the next thing is, this could be a really hard thing if you're trying to save up. You've gotten your DVC contract and you're banking and borrowing and you're going once every 3 years or every other year to maximize those points to get more time or a better room.
Is that you can bank points from the year that you're not using them. You can borrow points from the year ahead and you're using your current year. So there's a lot of people who use this as a strategy to go once every 3 years to Disney World.
So once again, you might be paying these annual dues every single year, but you're going once every 3 years. That would be really tough.
Yeah, and again, it comes down to, are you going to be wanting to go every 3 years or go like we do? We go every year, so we know we're using our points and we're getting the value out of it. But if you're not going to go every year, you may not want to consider.
Now, I'll tell you real quick, an offset topic is when we went into buying DVC, we decided what we want our home resort to be, like what kind of room we'd be staying, the most popular time of year or when we've been going, and how many nights we want to go. And that's how we figured out how many points we were going to need. Yep,
and we'll get a little bit more into points later because there's something else that has a big downside to this. Okay, let's go ahead and go into, there's another problem, which is if you have multiple contracts, you could have what's called different use years. What use years? What?
Okay, so every year, our use year's March. So every March we get our year's points. So I know that's what we expect. That's what they call their use year. So if I have a use year actually this is true. We have a use year in March and we have another one in September. 2 different contracts, 2 dates to remember for banking. So you can't get lost, and then trying to figure out how many points you have per year and trying to balance between the two. They literally are like half a year apart, and it's a balancing act. I really do. I have to keep a calendar in my phone of when my bank and borrow dates are, and just making sure I don't go over it. It just is an extra step that if we'd had all March use years, it would have been so much easier.
Yeah, like anything with this is there's a lot of math involved, and if you make that one small math calculation, it could cost you points, or you may be short on points. So
Yep.
it's one of those downsides that you really have to try to keep track of, and it can get confusing. Let's talk about another big downside. We're talking about money again. Well, Hawaii and California want more of it.
Well, okay, that's not surprising. They have something called a transient occupants tax. So basically, you pay your points. You think that's what you're going to pay. You didn't read the fine contract. All that billions of pages of little black writing that's about that big. That occupant tax is not only using points, but that state or city is requiring you to pay a tax in cash. So that's kind of a drawback.
Yeah. So for an example, Alani, depending on the time of year, the low is $10.35 for 2024. The high is $119. Again, that's going to depend on your category rooms, how big they are.
And what time of year you're traveling.
Yep. And this is per night. California, hold your breath.
And this is just 2024 for California. That can go up.
It is $27.80 per night at the low end, and the highest end, if you're at the top room,
3-bedroom villa.
it is $556 a night.
Okay, so you might think, hey, I'm getting a great deal. 12 of us are going. And then you realize you spent 3 or 4 nights. Well, that's a couple grand.
Yep.
Yikes.
And again, we did look at 2025's tax, and I'll put it up here. It does go up for 2025. They don't have 2025s listed for Hawaii as of yet. So,
Yikes.
yeah, that's kind of scary when you're not expecting that, and that tax, you're reading the bill.
The only thing was when we bought into ours, for some reason the villas at the Grand Californian, we were grandfathered in, so we don't have to pay it more there. But if we go to the villas at Disneyland Hotel, because it's newer, we were not grandfathered in, we'd have to pay that
so
transient occupant tax. So the weird, wild thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of dates in DVC, and this could be also another thing that we're talking about, is that depending on when you buy, when you get benefits, when you didn't buy, there's a whole bunch of weird dates, so really research those dates. Okay, let's go ahead and go to our next con. Well, this is one that is always interesting because we have a kid that's school age, so we're all trying to go on vacation at the same time. It is hard to book some of these things at last minute.
So what we mean is, especially certain resorts, you have a hard time finding beach club, especially marathon weekend, food and wine festival, things like that. Beach club can be very difficult to book. Now, there's always a wait list option, no guarantees, but if you're like, hey, every year I'm going to go to the beach club, and my home resort is Old Key West or, Alani or something, well, maybe not.
Yeah, so you get that at your home resort, you get that longer period to book, and you can book right out that period.
So 11 months for your home resort, 7 months for your other resorts.
Problem is with some of these smaller resorts, when they're booked quick by the people who own those resorts.
Or even like we own one contract at Animal Kingdom Lodge. Might be nice one time to do some studios or 1-bedroom with club level. Those are almost even a possible 11 months to book out. I would think that would be more of, wow, that popped up, that's rare, than an exception. I'd expect that every single year. Like, it just most likely isn't going to happen. So I would just say those kind of rooms, or even like the duo studio at the Riviera, is going to be really hard to book if you're not an owner at the Riviera.
Okay, so talking about hard to book, yeah, there's another one, last minute.
So if you want to go be like, hey, next month my friends are going, I want to go get a studio, I think I'm going to go stay anywhere on property, you may not find any availability.
Or you could be jumping around.
Right, or split stays or something like that, because it's hard to book within the last few months. Not all the time, sometimes there's downtimes, and you just might get lucky. But like last year in October, we decided we were going to go to Walt Disney World in December. Okay, let me tell you this. I first booked 3 nights at 3 different resorts, waitlisted, didn't know if we were going to have to get a hotel room in the middle of our stay. I literally was refreshing on all the time literally just refreshing the button for days at times. On my lunch hour at work, I was refreshing all the time. Took me about 6 weeks of refreshing, but I finally been able to do a split stay with 3 nights at Bay Lake Tower and 1 night at Boulder Ridge. But that was a lot of planning, a lot of time, and not everybody's gonna have the patience to do that.
Yep.
And a wait list coming through, so I had to wait list, pop up and see if anything came up. Like, it was work.
We're not saying it is impossible, but it's very difficult, especially around those holidays or when kids are out of school for spring breaks, everything
Marathons.
Marathons. It is very difficult to do. So if you're thinking, I'm going to go last minute and I'm just going to use my DVC points, you may have to do split stays, or you may not get lucky at all.
Or you may stay at a resort that you were like, oh, I don't really want to stay at Old Key West, or I don't really want to stay at Bay Lake Tower, or whatever. You might just be like, this wasn't really on the places of where I'd want to. You sometimes have to be flexible and stay where you want, what's available.
Okay, let's talk about a little bonus thing here, talking about booking all this stuff, because it is dealing with the website and trying to do all this stuff. Is they do tout that they have these special events at Disneyland and at Walt Disney World, which is called Moonlight Magic.
Now, these are hugely popular. They've had about the same amount of nights for years. Problem is, they've now added the villas at Disneyland Hotel. They've added now the cabins at the Fort Wilderness. They've added the Riviera. They have not really added extra nights. So all these people are trying to get Moonlight Magic after hours event, and sometimes you can't get them, even when you're staying on property. So that's really disappointing.
Yeah, and what's hard is that you can be on that website right when it opens, literally refreshing and doing everything you're supposed to be doing. And trust me, this year I was slamming my head against the thing, but I was on waiting, and I literally got to my number, got called, and when my number was called, half the dates were already gone, and then the whole system went kaplooey. So I had to do it again this year. Got on right on time, got up, and got to put all my information in, and guess what happened? We went kaplooey. These people that were on early didn't get theirs, and everybody else who came on just right when it opened were able to get on. So it is a very frustrating process. Disneyland is a little bit better, but we are expecting Disneyland to get a little bit worse, especially with the villas at the Disneyland Hotel opening. So it is something to be aware of. It can be a very frustrating, and where you want to start screaming at inanimate objects like a computer.
And not only that, like if you're staying on property, sometimes you find out people that were off property are getting on before, like they get to go. They're locals or something like that, but they bought because of Lonnie or something else, and then you don't get to go. But that, and your vacation finally lined up with the day, and they announce it, and you happen to already be there. And you get excited, thinking you're going to get to go.
So what Kim's talking about is that they will send out to a link to those who are registered to
staying at DVC resorts
to go ahead and be able to get on first of all and be on. But a lot of these people go, oh, I know so and so has it at their local, or so needs
and they share the link.
And that link is nothing really special, but they share it, and it creates chaos on the system. The system will crash. A lot of times it'll crash, or you won't get the times, and the people are not even staying there. They're just like, oh, I'm going to go because I'm
local, and they get to go to all of them.
Yep.
That's a complaint that we have, because if you go from the others somewhere else far away and it all happens to line up just right, doesn't mean you're going to get to go.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and go to another spot that is a sore spot for us, especially if you have to sleep on them.
The couch beds.
Yeah, so
the sofa beds are just not comfortable.
So they are in the process of changing a lot of the resorts to Murphy beds, which are a lot more comfortable. But there's going to be some resorts they can't change it because of window configurations or everything else. And those couch beds are absolutely terrible. So if you're going with adults and your adults are sleeping on those couch beds, they better have a good back.
You can request a foam mattress topper.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a big wound. But
well, I'd try anything at that point. We have slept on a sofa bed at the villas at the Grand California, and we didn't sleep all night.
Yeah. So it's something to be aware of. A lot of them are changing, but some of them won't. It's not fun. Let's go to the other room points is towels. you're reusing towels.
You only get mousekeeping every 4 days. So that's replacement towels, new paper towels, toilet. They will refill toilet paper if they see, and when they come to empty your trash every day. But extras, or you can let them know if you run out of soap.
Coffee.
Yeah, things like that.
It's
not an everyday thing.
It's something to be aware of. So don't go throw your towels on the floor thinking you're done, like a regular hotel. No, it's every 4 days.
The only tip I would give you is if you do have a 1-bedroom or higher, you have the washer and dryer in your room, I guess you could throw them in there and, do a load.
But they only give you 2 soaps.
Yeah, so then there's a little pros and cons here. We'll see.
But, okay. And let's go to our next pain point. This one's actually kind of a bigger pain point for us than some people, and maybe it won't be for some other people. But when you're in the studios, you only get a really small mini fridge.
Yeah, and what we've done is, like, one time we ordered a special charcuterie board because we got there late at night. We had it down at what was it, Bellhop, where they put it in the fridge, and then we had them bring it to the room. And we thought this would be a great late night snack because we're from West Coast and it was 3 hours ahead, so it was like our dinner time, even though it was super late in Florida. So that was like my answer to making sure everybody was fed and we were going to have a dinner.
Problem was, it wouldn't fit into
the leftovers
into the fridge after leftovers. And we also do a lot of ordering from a local delivery service of water, different juices and food, so you can fill those up really quickly because you don't have that full-size fridge. So it is something,
but you're dealing with limited space. It's just our drawback if you're thinking you're going to have a full-size fridge. Places to put things for, like, the microwave, reheat them, things like that, you have limited space.
Let's get to my favorite space, I guess, in a way. And if you watch any of our room reviews, I always point out where the USB ports are and plugins are. Why? Because we plug a lot of things in. We like USB ports. We like a lot of that charging. It makes it easier. Well, you're getting to a lot of the resorts that still have either USB-A, or some resorts that we just recently went to at the Grand Californian had no USB ports at all.
Okay.
We are starting to see those updated to USB-A and USB-C, but there's some that are just very limited and in bad spots. And it can make it for fun when you're trying to search things to plug in and have cords everywhere. Again, it's maybe a little nitpick, but I like having it.
Brad Morissette, I don't know if that's going to make or break you buying DVC. That's more your rant.
Let's get back from tech to points again.
Okay, because this is all points. Points is what you use to stay. You're not using dollars anymore. You use points to book your room. You have to have so many points, so that's like the cost of the room. So that's why they're important.
Yeah.
So these points do expire. It's not like you get every year you get, and if you don't use them, you're going to have them 5 years later. It doesn't work that way. They do have something for banking where you can use into the next year. So what they do is by the use year. So like I said, ours is in March for one of our contracts. And so every March we get our points given to us. It's like payday. This is a very exciting day in our world. You can use those points ahead of time to book for that year. If we don't use those points by October 31st every year for our March use year, then we would lose them. So I can bank them for up to 1 year. After 1 year, those points do expire. The good thing about when you're banking and borrowing for the following year, when you've banked them, that's the first points that get used out of your account.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about like telling them I need these points used first. No, they do that automatically. So you understand that when you buy your use year, I honestly put my use year into my phone and I do the annual reminder. So I know that every year I'm getting an alert on my cell phone calendar. And I'll actually put it like a week or two ahead of time too. So I have 2 reminders every year. So I'm being very careful not to lose those points if we didn't use them.
Okay, of course, there are some extreme examples that caused a lot of people to lose a lot of points. And of course, that was 2020 when everything was closed.
So obviously, there was this little big world event that happened where Disney World closed down for a while. And people had maybe banked points from the year before into that year, and because the resorts were closed, they lost them. There was people that did put them in an exchange, which we'll get into in a few minutes.
Yeah, there's people from out of country that could not come back into the United States
for almost a year,
and they lost all those points. So
Like,
Yeah.
we don't ever expect, hopefully nothing like that ever happens again. But beware, as a drawback, people lost a lot.
Yep. Okay, let's go over to our next problem with that we kind of have it. Well, they give you nice discounts on annual passes through DVC that you're able to get that annual pass at Disney World or that Magic Key over at Disneyland.
So at Disney World, you can get the Sorcerer's Pass for $999 per person. You can only buy that level pass if you're a Florida resident or a DVC member. So those are kind of two little things to know. But the blackout periods are kind of steep. Why I'm saying this is because it's Thanksgiving week, and also this year it's December 19th through January 2nd. So if you want to go for the holidays and you thought, I'm going to have this really great period of time when I want to go, I want the discount and I'm buying into DVC, and that's going to be a perk to help offset things.
And you're like, I'm going to get an annual pass so I don't have to pay a daily rate. Yeah, you're paying the daily rate.
If you're going during those times.
And those are going to be because they're of...
those are the popular times, so you're going to have
a higher rate. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things to be aware of that it really, for us, we used to be able to have a DVC pass that was no blackout dates. Now...
Because we've gone during the holidays. Sometimes we'll go that week after Christmas, and now that was taken away on a discounted rate. So that's something... or you have to buy the higher level pass not to have the blackouts. Mm-hmm. So just FYI, if you thought, hey, that's a perk, but we want to go every year at Christmas or New Year's.
If you do the Sorcerer's Pass with a DVC discount, you're out of luck. Okay, let's go to something that you'll hear in the sales presentation a lot when they're doing DVC Direct. You could use your points for cruises and adventures by Disney.
Or you can use a Disney collection exchange and go to Disneyland Paris and... Disneyland Tokyo, or you can go to Disney World Resort and stay at a moderate resort, or you can use your points for
going skiing, going somewhere, through their exchange. Let's talk about the really big downside of this. And the first thing we're always, when we said this is the worst use of your points for money that you can use. Period.
Okay, so first of all, for the Disney Collection Exchange, if you're going to use another hotel at Disney World on the resort side, not the DVC side, it's $95 plus the points. So if you went to Disneyland Paris, you could use, they'll tell you whatever points is per night for what room you get, but you have to pay $95 on top of that. And then to give you an example, you might say, oh, great, if this year I want to go on a Disney cruise, and we've always wanted to go on the Wish, and, it sounds so exciting, and go to the Bahamas.
Look, there's a balcony available on the Disney Wish for July 26th for a 3-night cruise.
You'll have to go on a cruise?
Nah, not for these points. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to tell you a comparable points versus what you get on the Disney Wish. So per person in a deluxe ocean view stateroom with veranda, category 5C, it's about $3,337 per person cash. So you're looking over $6,000. Let's use it 3,000 because I only did this for a one person. So a one person use of points is 152 points to 180 points for those 3 nights. So, okay, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, they get the points. Well, okay, that's the same as $3,000.
But what could I do with that at my home resort?
So we're going to use the Polynesian Studios as an example.
So for a standard, it'd be 66 points for those 3 nights, or a lake view would be 78 points.
So you're looking at almost 102 point difference for
a cruise.
Yeah, and you can fit how many people in the room? 3, 4, 5.
Oh, in the studio, in the Poly. Now you forget that's points per one person. So if you had 2 or 3 people in the room, then it goes up.
Yep.
So for one person on the cruise versus 3 nights in the studios is 102 points. But on the cruise, I will give them, they have entertainment, food.
Yeah. You got the little bit.
Yeah.
But still, let's put this in more perspective. Please. Sorry about the noise outside. We do have a leaf blower going, so there's not a whole lot we can do about it. Okay, so let's go back to if you're staying at the Poly July 26th through August 2nd for that 7 days, it'll cost you 174 points.
For a lake view, or 146 for a standard view.
That's a week.
That's either the cost of or less than the cost of a 3-night cruise on the Wish. So when you put it into perspective, that's not a good exchange.
Yeah, so that's not really a good use of your points. You'd probably be better off, truthfully, is putting them on the resale exchange for your points and getting that, recouping that money and paying cash for that cruise. Another thing is, well, don't die or get divorced.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, I don't think anybody plans on that off.
Well, I guess it wouldn't be a problem if you died, but...
All right, we took a morbid twist. Anyways, if you decide to become the 1000th ghost at the Haunted Mansion, there's a little thing you have to take into consideration. This is a title. So this comes with legal. If you were to pass, this was a 50-year commitment or a 20-year, whatever was left on your title, on your contract. So it cost if you didn't...
to transfer those titles, all the paperwork, because they will allow you to transfer it to your family members. It's just a lot of time, again, more money, and a little bit of headache to deal with all of it.
So it's not all cut and dry, just something to think of. And of course, there's the problem of the resale restriction. So if you decide, hey, direct is really expensive, maybe I'll try to cut some corners and do a resale contract and, you know, try to make this more affordable. And there are a lot of restrictions.
Yeah, so it's something really you got to be aware of. Remember we were talking about Moonlight Magic? That's only for if you buy direct over a certain amount of points.
And of course, if you bought prior, there's a lot of restrictions.
Yep.
Some people are able to do that, but most aren't.
Yep. There's another big restriction, which we actually really love, and we have a lounge at Disneyland and a lounge at Walt Disney World, and you can't get those if you don't have a direct contract.
Or a top of the world lounge. So those special perks you've had to buy direct. So it's a drawback to buy on the resale market if that's important to you.
And I know we talked about the exchange for cruises to Adventures by Disney or the hotel. Well, you don't have that availability for the
resale market.
Yep. So you do lose that option completely. So I guess that's a wash.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the biggest problem. Yeah, I mean, some people want it for that, or if they got into buying, they want the option of the Disney Collection Exchange or Adventures by Disney or cruises if they were going to lose their points and they weren't able to go and they wanted to try to figure that out.
So, before we get into Kim's biggest negative about DVC contract, if you're finding this video helpful, please like,
subscribe,
and follow along with our Ohana. So what is the biggest, for Kim, I am saying this for Kim, the biggest drawback for DVC, and I guess it's more my wallet, is she has a canny ability of, hey, why don't we get more points at Animal Kingdom?
It's called add-on-itis. A lot of times you go into DVC and you're like, I have these points, I can't really maybe stay in the room I want, or I want to go more often.
I want to go to the Food and Wine. Well, I can't go because I have it planned for summer, but I want to go this time.
I want to go more times a year, different kinds of rooms.
I've heard all the excuses.
Or, hey, I found a really great resale contract.
Yeah, so we actually have bought contracts both ways, so this is why we're very aware of the restrictions. And she has the due balancing act of 3 contracts now?
Yeah, but honestly, I love DVC. I love Disney. That's me. There's a lot of people always say they wish they had more points or more nights or could stay at the nicer resorts. I want to say, at the cabins at Copper Creek. Well, that sounds amazing, but that's a lot of points.
Or the Poly Bungalows, which we have done.
That's when we talked about the restrictions, we were able to bank ours because it was during that time.
And we had to use them. Or we lost them. That's what we used them on. That was kind of cool. But yeah, this can get very expensive. But again, it's like we always say, you always have to balance these cons of everything before you buy, because it is a major decision, financial decision for your family if you're going to use it or not.
Absolutely.
But if you have the money, you want to do it, and you're planning to go to Disney World, well, I don't see a con in it.
All right, so we are absolutely pro DVC, but we understand there's drawbacks. There are things that could work better, but it is, like you said, it has to work for your family because it is a significant financial commitment.
Yep. So, with that, I think we've covered it.
Yes,
So, should we go on to pros next time?
I love it.
Okay, so with that, I think it's time for us to say goodbye and find your magic. Bye, everyone. Well, this is supposed to be our bungalow, and we're going to be going inside. Go, hey!
So now I'm calling Disney because we can't get in. And this is not a joke, okay?
She only could afford the walk-up experience, not the whole room.